Tom Pelissero went on the Rich Eisen show to talk about the fact that the NFL owners have reportedly discussed radical changes to quarterback contracts. So take a listen.
There certainly has been discussion within the league, Rich, among certain owners about even the idea of a quarterback cap, that at some point you want quarterback numbers to not go over a certain percentage of your salary cap. To my knowledge, that really hasn't gained traction, in part because so many teams have paid their quarterbacks.
So I want to know, do you think the NFL should put a cap on quarterback contracts?
Salaries are now approaching $60 million a year. Dak Prescott's going to want $60 million. I don't think he'll get it. I don't think he's actually expecting it. I think he'd be happy with 55. But 55 million even, right? With lots of money guaranteed. You see Trevor Lawrence has played inconsistently over his whole career. $55 million a year. It's crazy. I don't know. I think it seems like the ownerships are trying to outdo one another. And here you bring it up on the screen here. Trevor Lawrence, 5 years, $275 million. Joe Burrow, 5 years, $275 million. How did Trevor Lawrence get the same contract as Joe Burrow? I'm shocked by
One made
that.
a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And was literally maybe 2 seconds away. If he had 2 seconds, Jamar Chase broke free on the right side. Aaron Donald pressured him. I think got the sack on the final play of the Super Bowl.
Jared Goff, 4 years, $212 million. Justin Herbert, 5 years, $262 million. Lamar Jackson, 5 years, $260 million. He's probably angry that he isn't getting more money now. Jalen Hurts, 5 years, $255 million. It's crazy. And we still have Jordan Love out there. We still have Tua out there. We still have Dak Prescott out there who are going to probably get big contracts.
C.J. Stroud too.
C.J. Stroud, right? He's watching this and thinking, "Wow, this is great. This is the benchmark here." You didn't even put up Watson, right? Yeah. Who has $230 million guaranteed.
He's averaging $46 million
guaranteed. He's got $230 million guaranteed, no matter how he plays. It's crazy. I don't get it. I mean, the TV money's great. And the money's there to pay, I guess. But I think you hurt your team a little bit when you use so much of your salary cap to pay one player. And the quarterback, as I've always said, handles the ball on every play. So he's the most important player. His decision-making is so important. His ball security, his leadership skills. It's definitely the most important player on the team. But to use up, a big chunk of your salary cap, paying a quarterback as much as $60 million a year, I don't know. I think that perhaps there's something needs to be done. Maybe some sort of NBA model with a max and a super max, or maybe a salary that can't go over a certain percentage of the salary cap is something they ought to look at. Not just for the quarterback, for any one player. Any player on the team can't earn more than X percent of the salary cap. So I don't know. We'll see what they do.
Do you think that they should, though? Because Tom Pelissero said it hasn't really picked up any traction, but they've had low-level conversations about the idea because of the fact that Trevor Lawrence got $55 million.
I think the Players Association would go nuts. The CBA, it would be a big issue with the CBA. I don't see it happening in the near term.
But do you think that if you were, I guess, the owner, the commissioner, would you implement that?
I guess I'd like to, and I think the owners would love to have it, right? Because it's costing them tons of money.
More money in their pocket,
and you're just going to see, I think it puts, and the players love it because it puts more pressure on increasing the salary cap, right? This is a item that can really put a lot of pressure on the salary cap growing, because you're throwing so much money at your quarterback. It doesn't leave much for all the other good players, and there's many other good players that deserve to earn lots of money. And when the standard for a quarterback is as much as $60 million, it just lifts everybody else's boat.
Well, yeah. Well, I think what's shocking about this is, and Tom Pelissero talks about Trevor Lawrence's $55 million per year contract. Well, Sports Illustrated came out and said that Brock Purdy's contract could be $65 million a year. $65 million. And Dak Prescott's asking for 60. CJ Stroud is probably going to be a top 10 quarterback very early on next season. Brock Purdy's probably going to be a top 10 quarterback very early on. Tua, with the amount of talent he has, around him, as well as he's not that horrible of a quarterback, he's probably going to ask for $60 million or somewhere around it. Do some of these quarterbacks deserve it? I think if you go down to the bare bones of it all, Dak Prescott, do you like regular season success and then sucking in the playoffs? Dak Prescott's your guy. Do you like Tua Tagovailoa, who could only play in warm weather? Check the records, check the statistics. He doesn't do well in cold weather, and especially outside in cold weather. Regardless, do you want that, where it's all circumstantial? Do you want CJ Stroud, who's still a very young quarterback? I think he's 2 years out eligible for an extension. Do you think that he's your guy to pay $60 million? Brock Purdy. If George Kittle, and they're all advancing in age, if Brandon Ayuk is gone because he's frustrated with the contract situation, if George Kittle retires and you're stuck with Debo, and I'm sure C-Mac, he just got a 2-year extension, I believe. If, let's say, he gets banged up for a season, I hope that isn't really the case with San Francisco, just because I think, could conditioning be a little bit better? Could it be the San Francisco environment compared to Carolina's that it could be the difference? Regardless, if something bad happens to Brock Purdy's supporting cast and you give him a $65 million a year contract, and we start seeing the truth of it all, that no, he actually was the most helped quarterback, and he is a good quarterback, but he's not 2023 level of greatness, where people were saying he should have been the MVP. People are saying now, Sports Illustrated is saying he's worth $65 million a year, or could be. Could we see it in that situation, and where you're really biting yourself? The Browns, that contract is still, if Deshaun Watson does not get near his level of Texans play, where he was a close to an MVP candidate, making the playoffs, could that be the worst contract in NFL, worst contract in sports history?
Maybe. I mean, they owe him $230 million no matter what he does.
Right. So I think
so far he hasn't played up to it. I don't think he's played up to the contract.
No,
last year he wound up getting hurt. He was inconsistent.
I think it's a sub 60% completion percentage.
Yeah.
So let's just say they put a salary. Let's say they put a hard cap on what you can make per year. You are right. I think that does, just because of the fact that the salary cap will go up.
A percentage of the salary cap.
Right. So, for instance, at the time of signing, currently Joe Burrow leads the league in that. So, at the percent of sign, the average percentage of the cap was 24.47. That's how much his contract was worth. Now, actually, Trevor Lawrence, it's crazy to think that it's $55 million a year, the same as Joe Burrow. But it's 21.5% of the league cap. That's how much the cap has grown in a matter of what? Oh, literally a year.
The cap is going to continue to grow.
Correct, because the NFL,
the TV money is going to be there, and the players split 50-50, I think, right? With the
I'm not sure with the exact
with
percentage.
the NFL, I think it's like 50-50, and so the money is going to be there. The salary cap is going to grow. I would say set it at 20% of the cap, the max for any one player.
So if it's 20%, that means let's actually bring up the contracts. We don't have every contract here, but based on if it's 20% of the league cap, Burrow cannot have the amount of money. Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Lamar, Mahomes, Hurts, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence, and Jared Goff could not have the contracts they currently have. They're above 20%, with Jared Goff being 20.75% of the cap at signing.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Stafford would have the biggest contract at $40 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
$40 million. You're saying quarterbacks can only make $40 million a year. Actually, technically, that would go up because of the.
It's going to go up. The salary cap is going to continue to grow. So I would say these contracts are all grandfathered. You're not going to change them. They're already signed. So you look forward to a salary cap that grows, and a percentage, 20% will result in the opportunity to continue to give more money to these players, but not at the alarming growth rate that it's been going up now. These contracts have gone up like a hockey stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, because if we're looking at it, Trevor Lawrence and the salary cap, I think, exploded this season. Trevor Lawrence's 55 per year is only 21.53% of the cap. So what, you'd be, I can't do the exact percentage calculation in my head, but what, that's like 53 if you signed a $53 or $52 million contract, that would be about 20% of the cap, give or take. I'm sure. I can't do the calculation immediately in my head, but 53, 52. Would you pay Tua Tagovailoa that? Is he worth $52 million? I'd put him around the $47 million personally.
I wouldn't. In fact,
I think C.J. Stroud is worth 52.
I would let him play his contract this year, and and put him on the franchise tag next year. Watch and see how he plays this year. I think it's still a question mark. I would not give him a giant contract. I'd let him play out his contract. If there's a lot of interest in him, put the franchise tag on him for a year, and then a negotiated deal with him.
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen. We're going to see a situation where it could be a holdout, could be something. We see it all the time.
He can hold out if he wants, but the franchise tag sticks. I mean, that's not going to stop the Dolphins from putting the tag on him. I don't think.
That's true. I mean,
and why would he do that? He's going to wind up giving up a lot of money. He would wind up with being paid a huge salary on the franchise tag. It'd just be only for 1 year.
Yeah, I think the franchise tag is like $45 million this season, something like that for a quarter. It
Not
might
bad.
be even more than that.
But would you give him a big contract right now?
I would give him. I'm not giving him
$55 million.
I'm not giving him 55. I would give him 50 at the very most. And if we look at Spot Track right now,
how many years?
I would give him 5.
5 years, and how much guaranteed?
Let's see. If I'm making 55, I'll give him 160 million fully guaranteed.
Wow.
I guess guaranteed.
He'd probably take that contract.
I don't know. Right now, currently, Spot Trek has his annual average salary at $52.6 million. With I don't think no, they don't give guarantees. So that's what his contract would be if you go based on Spot Track, $52.6 million, which is a decent amount of money. I would give him 50 at the most. And it really depends on the season. If he plays great, yeah, sure, I'll agree with this number. No doubt about it. But I think it's a bit glaring when you get into if we're talking about level of difficulty, medium to hard, because they're from Miami, and his stats plummet. His numbers plummet. Production plummets. How can you give this guy $55 million? It's the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones have won the same amount of playoff games. One's making $15 million more than the other one. And I don't have the numbers here, but we showed them, I think, on last show, the show before. Their numbers are identical. Their numbers, I think Trevor Lawrence has 200 more total yards. And Daniel Jones has been hurt a lot. Trevor Lawrence did get hurt last year, but he played through
The
it.
Trevor Lawrence deal, to me, is hard to believe. I really think
they're paying for potential.
Why did they go get Daniel Jones to be his backup? I don't understand.
They got Mac Jones.
I'm sorry, Mac Jones. Yeah. Mac Jones to be his backup. Why'd they bother doing that? I don't understand. They thought they were going to give him $55 million a year.
Well, Mac's not going to. I think why they brought.
He's
him
obviously
Mac,
not going to play.
I think why they brought in Mac
unless Lawrence gets hurt, which is
that's
now
what
he's had a concussion, he had a ankle injury and a shoulder injury. So I don't know. Maybe he's going to be injury prone. I don't know. We'll see. I think that's a huge contract to give that guy.
Well, his contract buddies also. I think if he has one more injury, it doesn't matter if it's in a game or during training camp, which Burrow for the past couple of years he's been getting hurt in training camp. I think one more decent injury, we can now label Burrow as injury prone.
Yeah.
And we'll bring it up the number one more time. They're contract buddies. Same exact contract when it comes to just total salary in years.
Wow. It's craziness. It's unbelievable.
I think you're right, though. If you implement a cap for quarterbacks and it goes up, I think that does raise salaries for everybody else because the owners have all this money. It's either going to go into new stadiums or new facilities or it's going to go into the players, which then, hell, if it doesn't go into the facility, running backs still complain about, by the way, Ramondre Stevenson signed a 4-year, $36 million contract extension.
Good for him.
So that kind of means the running back market went $9 million a year. And we're here talking about Saquon complaining about $12 and $13 million, which I think he got 12 point something. Austin Eckler complaining about the running back market.
Plug and play. They just pull the next guy in there, because those guys take a beating.
Yeah.
And their longevity is short.
Because your prime is the first 4 years of your career. Yeah. Quarterbacks, it could take 10 years for you to hit your prime. Late 20s into mid 30s.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to say, but I think It depends.
I just think it's crazy that you get a contract like that, $275 million, and it's like 5 years.
Yeah.
And your longevity in the NFL and as a quarterback could be 15 to 20 years.
Right.
You could get that contract 3 times.
Well, Kirk Cousins got a bunch of those types of things where
he's one of the richest
he's going
players
to make
ever.
$430 million by the time his now contract
It's
is up.
crazy, just from his salary playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
And these guys get the endorsements.
Yeah.
They have lots of other income that they can make. It's amazing. If you're a great athlete, you can play quarterback in the NFL and be good at it, man. You're just set.
Well,
no problem.
I think the Bills did it with Josh Allen. They signed him to a massive extension, multi-year, more than the average of now $5 million. I think they signed to a 7 or 8 year contract. Mahomes got 10 years.
His deal looks like a steal.
He's averaging $45 million.
Yeah. He gets $500 million over 10 years.
His contract average salary currently is tied for 9th with Kirk Cousins. And we're talking about a guy who's probably most likely going to three-peat. Is now tied for the 9th highest average salary.
Yeah, he messed up. He shouldn't have taken that deal.
I mean, at the time, you're signing a guy 10 years. You're banking your future.
I mean,
on this
look
one
at that.
guy.
If somebody offered me 10 years and $500 million, I'd take it in a heartbeat.
I think everybody would.
Yeah, well,
He did, and he was smart to do it. It's going to get. There's going to be more years, more money added. They may just void it and say, we'll give you a new contract. There might be a bunch of things going on, but the fact that Mahomes is now tied for the 9th highest paid contract annually shows just how crazy that these contracts are going to turn out to be. And for all we know, right? Because I brought this up on last time we talked about contracts, and we talked about Trevor Lawrence's contract. 6 years ago, Jimmy Garoppolo was the highest paid quarterback in the league annually at a little bit over $25 million per year. So let's say 6 years from now. So it's been a $30 million jump in 6 years. Let's continue that trend. I don't know who it'll be. It's probably going to be a rookie in 2026 or 7. That quarterback, if we continue this trend, will be making $85 million a year.
Well, I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal about sports player contracts, and they say that Luka Doncic in his career could wind up making $1 billion. It's possible. He could wind up with $1 billion, huh?
I mean, think about it. Now
the money's there because the sports is so big now. It's huge.
Well, the NBA is finally hitting $300 million contracts. The NFL, we're talking, I mean, Mahomes signed obviously the biggest deal at $450 million over 10 years. But we're seeing some massive contracts, and if the trend continues, we see Trevor Lawrence now is the current highest paid quarterback 6 years after Jimmy G was. In 6 years from now, could Arch Manning be the first $85 million a year quarterback?
I don't know. We'll see how he plays. If he plays like Peyton Manning did, then probably.
I mean, according to C.J. Stroud, Eli Manning is over Aaron Rodgers, so maybe it's Eli Manning he wants to play.
Well, only because he got 2 Super Bowls and Aaron.
So did Peyton Manning.
I know.
I'd still choose Aaron Rodgers over Eli Manning. I get it. The rings are a thing, but Eli's a mid quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
500 record. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.